Martin Luther King Jr. was a great man and left a great legacy. His influence has been felt by many, no matter what creed, race, age, or status they happen to be. The African American minister and Nobel Prize winner's legacy continues to motivate all who come to know who he is and what he stood for, which is peace, harmony, and love for one another. He was a husband, father of four, and mentor to countless people around the world. King's civil rights movements have paved the way for future generations to become great politicians, business owners, and future leaders of the world. One of King's great personal accomplishments was going to school. He graduated in 1951 from Crozer Theological Seminary and received a doctorate in theology from Boston University in 1955. Two men would help King discover his calling as a minister. Dr. Benjamin E. Mays was the president of Morehouse College, and Dr. George D. Kelsey, who was head of the religion department. From this, he went on to join the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and the Alabama Council of Human Relations. King was a strong public speaker who made great strides in the civil rights movement by being a mouthpiece of reason for those who could not be heard. He headed many protests that led to the end of segregation and discrimination in the United States. One noteworthy boycott was the Montgomery bus boycott. On December 1st, 1955, the boycott was started because a black woman by the name of Rosa Parks would not give up her seat on a bus to a white man. King became the negotiator over the boycott. With his growing sense of duty, he led the boycott of the local bus system that lasted 382 days. African Americans were urged to boycott the segregated buses. In the end, segregation of the bus system was discontinued. This act sparked the human rights movement even further, and King was in the middle of it all, doing his best to keep the peace with his nonviolent protests. In the 1960s, the sit-in movement commenced. Lunch counter segregation protesting started and was led by nonviolent means. King, along with 75 students, went into a lunch counter store and demanded service. Many were arrested, including King. The sit-in movement spread like wildfire to other neighboring cities and states. Because of so many protests, President John F. Kennedy spoke with King, and finally their demands were met with an end in sight. Kennedy also sent the FBI to assure King's safety. King spoke with many presidents over the course of his ministry. Although not much was accomplished with these meetings, they were still effective in reminding those men in government leadership positions that King and his followers were still here. Another event that took place was the Selma March in April 1965. King led this march from Selma to Montgomery, followed by the signing of the Voting Rights Act. This act was aimed to overcome legal barriers that prevented African Americans to vote. Because of his outspoken nature and willingness to back any civil rights movement, he was arrested several times, some of those times being for no apparent reason. However, he would manage to do his time without any reservation. King would do this to remind the masses of what was going on with the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed on April 4th, 1968, for the things he believed in. His legacy lives on through the freedoms that African Americans enjoy without persecution or outrage from the masses, as well as many other cultures who have experienced racism. In his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, he says, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." A memorial is dedicated to him in the area of the National Mall. This site is near the place where he gave his "I Have a Dream" speech. It is a symbol of freedom, of rights, and of humanity. King's philosophy was to keep the peace while proving the point, and it worked. Today the freedoms enjoyed by many are attributed to him, Martin Luther King Jr. will never be forgotten for his great service in teaching and ministry.